the Quran class. We are continuing to study Surah Luqman, Surah 31, and this is our 10th session on the Surah. And so without further ado, I'll turn to Sister Yamina to lead us in tonight's session. Bismillah. Thank you, Sister Yamina.
Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وتقبله مني وسلام على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So last week we stopped at ayah 30 of Surat Luqman, which was ذلك بأن الله هو الحق وأن ما يدعون من دونه الباطل وأن الله هو العلي الكبير. And so inshallah today we'll start from ayah 31. It would be nice if one of you could summarize whatever they learned, whatever so far. What does this surah, what's the message of this surah, as far as, of course, you are concerned, as far as you could understand and remember, inshallah. We're not saying that this is what the surah means. We're saying this is what we got. Anyone, inshallah? Just to keep in mind that there is a thread going on here, a theme going on here, and every ayah, every verse is related to the other. And the whole surah, we said, is about the Quran being a source of wisdom and guidance for the muhsin. And in verse 12, we were told how wisdom is taught to Luqman alayhi salam. Yes?
Assalamu alaikum. Basically the theme of this surah is about having shukr and to do dawah. Actually, he's doing dawah. Luqman alayhi salam is doing dawah to his son, who's supposedly mushrik, and the methodology of dawah is also, we can pick up things from here, and most important is about the qualities of muhsinin, of what they stand for, and the theme is only about having shukr and dawah basically.
Okay, so the theme shukr means gratitude. However, I just want to remind ourselves that we did not talk in our classes about da'wah because as far as I'm concerned personally, it's a perception and an understanding. So Sister Esma understands the relationship and the conversation between Luqman and his son as dawah. I understand that as living as a muhsin. When you live as a muhsin, you speak what you believe. That's called authenticity and integrity. And especially he's talking to his beloved son. So he's saying, please, this is like the most important thing that I can teach you in this life is do not commit shirk, because the hikmah that he learned, the wisdom that he learned, which we know in the Quran is like the best thing you can learn. That's what the Quran is, the Quran al-Hakim, the source of the hikmah, is to be grateful to God only. So in order to be grateful to God only, I first have to be aware that I'm not committing shirk. Second, when Sister Esma said that his son is a mushrik. We don't know. It doesn't say that he's a mushrik. What he's teaching his son is what we are being taught through his son. We are also the audience. We are reading this, not only this surah, actually, so far, all the chapters, all the surahs that we read and reflected on together are teaching us Tawheed and how to stay away from shirk, because shirk is not something that we necessarily go in intentionally, but when we do not intend the opposite, we may find ourselves there. So
Correct.
We may be committing shirk, but does it mean that this person or that person is mushrik? I am not sure about that. But thank you. The main theme is hikmah, and hikmah is here being taught as gratitude. And as we saw in our teleconference on gratitude and shukr is really living with tawheed, living in ihsan. So it's really very practical. It's the beginning of hikmah and the end of hikmah. So where do we start? Gratitude, be grateful. And how to be grateful? We are taught in the surah how to balance and to arrange our relationship with our parents, how to keep that balance between not offending them, but not also following them and forgetting about and committing shirk meanwhile without realizing, following the ways of our parents. And then in 16, we talked again about the creation and how it reflects God's power and knowledge, and how we get to know him through his creation, through his ayat and signs. And then in 17, we're given practical how would you say, tawsiyah?
Nasiha.
Advice.
Yeah, but sorry?
Nasiha, right?
Advice.
Yeah, advice on how to live, how to keep that state of awareness, and therefore go back to that gratitude. Establish prayer, be constant in prayer, enjoying the doing of what is right, forbid the doing what is wrong, and bear in patience, be steadfast. That steadfastness is very important. Whatever happens to you, remain steadfast. And then in Ayah 18, we're told to not be haughty, and then the next one, be modest. And so it was like we're given all the practical advice to live and maintain, because it's I can be grateful one day, 1 hour, one time, even 1 week or a month, but how do we maintain this? So we taught how to maintain it. And it's interesting that wisdom is gratitude. A gratitude to God alone means no shirk. And no shirk means tawheed.
Tawheed.
And tawheed means, in the Quran, tawheed means we recognize the signs, the ayat that bear messages from God, from our Rabb, from the unseen, in everything. So everything that we see around us, everything that is created within, without, outside, and within us, our feelings, our thoughts, everything are created. It means they are created with meaning, with purpose, not in vain. And So that means we living in ihsan, because the one who lives in ihsan is the one who is aware that everything is created on purpose, and therefore everything is divine speech, God communicating with us. And when we are in that state of ihsan, and when we persevere and show that steadfastness to remain that sabr, to remain in that state of ihsan, then we start reading the messages, because the reading is given to us. The wisdom is given to the muhsinin, and with that wisdom we start reading the messages. And the messages, therefore, سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى. It's like we don't read ourselves, we are made to read. And so when we are given that hikmah, the wisdom to read the messages, we become even more aware that everything is a ni'mah, everything has a purpose and a beautiful purpose. Everything has an aspect that looks to wajhullah, to the face of God, to the beautiful divine names, therefore to akhirah, to the eternal realm. And so the result, it means our appreciation of everything is going to increase, and therefore our gratitude to our Rabb is going to increase. So it's like a cycle that feeds itself and grounds itself, and it's like more than a cycle, it's like an ellipse that's going up and up and up. And so that's when our aim is gratitude to God alone, we start living in ihsan. That living in ihsan makes us open to receive the hikmah. That hikmah makes us realize the reality of everything, increases our gratitude, and back again, gratitude to God alone. It means that is the living, practicing tawheed. Living tawheed starts and ends with gratitude. Subhanallah, it's just beautiful. And the whole surah so far has been about teaching us this. So now we in ayah 31, inshallah we'll go through ayah 31 and 32. ألم ترى أن الفلك تجري في البحر بنعمة الله ليريكم من آياته إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور وإذا غشيهم موج كالظلل دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين فلما نجاهم إلى البر فمنهم مقتصد وما يجحد بآياتنا إلا كل خطار كفور. Are you not aware how the ships speed through the sea by God's favor, so that he might show you some of his signs? Herein, behold, there are signs indeed for all who are wholly steadfast, sabbar, and deeply grateful, shakur. And when the waves engulf them like shadows, they call unto God, sincere in their faith in him alone. But as soon as he has brought them safe ashore, some of them stop halfway, meaning between belief and unbelief. Yet none could knowingly reject our signs except the utterly perfidious ingrate. And it sounds familiar because in Surat Al-Ra'd also we had something like this. In the Quran, it's a theme that is repeated again and again. And it is a metaphor for anything that happens to us in our life. We don't have to be in a storm in the sea. There are storms that happen all the time in life. So again, here, God points to his signs, his ayat in the world to show to us and remind us that truly there is only one source, that truly بأن الله هو الحق, that truly God is the only haq, the only truth. There is nothing else. Everything else is, if we give existence to anything else in itself, from itself, it's our delusion. It is an illusion, because everything derives its existence from him, and everything therefore is a sign pointing back to him. It's like a mirror reflecting its source. That's why, again, by inviting us, saying, are you not aware how the ships speed through the sea by God's favor? Like, how else can they do it? I mean, someone may say, oh yes, of course, water has this and this property. What does it mean? It just means that I gave a name. I put something in water, it started floating, and I gave a name, and we call it like this and that, and we say there is a force. There is no force in water. Those forces in physics are only devices to calculate. There is nothing in water calculating, oh, how much is this mass? What's the density? Should I let it float or should it sink? Because if we think that there is truly something going on consciously, we would be thinking that water is has knowledge of everything, is measuring everything, and each time not only it measures, it knows it measures, and it applies the forces accordingly, and exactly, like accurately, without any mistakes, which just doesn't make sense. So the fact that we learn at school forces and those are just devices to calculate. It's not a description and an explanation. It's maybe a description, but definitely not an explanation of what's going on. And when you stop and think about it, it's just amazing how you can throw anything, and each time, subhanallah, it accurately, you can predict what's going to happen, exactly because everything is ordered. Everything happens according to a very accurate order. There is knowledge, there is power, there is order. There are so many things going on in just something floating on water. But here it's the ships. A ship is a huge thing, and it's full of merchandise and goods and things. And it's like a mountain speeding through the sea, through the water. And if we're not swimming, we would just, the water is not going to just keep us up. We say there is a law, but that law is the description of what's going on. It is not the explanation of what's going on. Subhanallah, what does it mean that there is a law? It just means that ships are held on the sea and pushed. It's just amazing, especially because in our perception, it's something awesome, it's big, and it's something that we don't expect. Although, like, how do we walk on earth? We don't even think about that. Why should earth keep solid and holds us? But because we are not used to water holding us, the fact that it holds the ships and they can move in it is amazing. It's awe-inspiring. And we are told that there are signs in this. It means stop, pause, and reflect. Something amazing is going on here. And actually, the more you know of what's going on, the more amazed, the more in sajda you are. You just prostrate, subhanallah. When you don't know much, you may not be as much in awe. That's why here it says, so that he might show you some of his signs. So when he's pointing to the ships, God wants us to see his signs there, his ayat there. And then he tells us, you know who see the sign truly? Behold, These are signs for إن في ذلك لآية لكل صبار شكور. So the signs are there for those who are steadfast, patient, steadfast, yeah, and deeply grateful. Shakur, those who are looking for opportunities to be grateful. And so you will find so many opportunities to be grateful in the fact that ships speed up. Subhanallah. So this reminder, again, like in the beginning, each time going back to the creation and therefore showing us evidences that we can witness that truly there is only one single source of being, and therefore that shirk is a delusion of the ghafil, of the mindless. As we're told in the previous ayah, ذلك بأن الله هو الحق وأن ما يدعون من دونه الباطل وأن الله هو العلي الكبير. God alone is the ultimate truth, and all that people invoke instead of him is sheer falsehood, because God alone is exalted, truly great. Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar. And together with, so the signs here are the ships sailing.
Could I just add something? As you were talking about the ships, and I thought, like, it's so interesting that in one way it's very surprising that we can walk on land, and then when it comes to water, if you try to walk on water, you just sink. But on the other hand, given that so many things are sinking in water, it's amazing that huge ships filled with people, and now we have the cruise ships, which is immensely huge and filled with everything, and they're sailing on that precarious, fragile liquid is just amazing. And so that contrast is interesting. I mean, on the one hand, the fact that things sink is amazing, but on the other hand, the fact that they float is also amazing. It's surprising that it's just it's the same water, and a little bit change in the surface area, this and that, then the thing starts floating, or the thing starts sinking. So it's interesting, and it now that then the second part of that verse 31, it says there are signs for all who are patient in adversity. I thought maybe it can also suggest that a symbolic meaning as well. So there are situations where we think we're going to be drowned in, and then we're able to float. Are there situations we think we're self-sufficient, we can handle, and we start sinking? I don't know, maybe this is just a side note, but it's interesting that how we can read the verse in other levels as well. So if we can see how the natural world is not acting on its own, then we can bring it to our lives and see how our lives is also not just happening haphazardly, and we can actually float in situations where it looks like there is no way and you have to drown. It's interesting. I found it very interesting that the verse that's talking about in its first part about nature, in the second part it turns to being patient and grateful. So like it's directly related to our attitude towards world in the second part, whereas in the first part it's talking about nature, and they're all interconnected. Sister Yamina, you're muted in case you're talking.
Thank you. The key word here is that they see the signs, because it says ألم ترى أن الفلك تجري في البحر بنعمة الله. So الفلك تجري في البحر, the ship sailing in the sea, is what everyone sees. But the one who is steadfast and grateful knows that it is doing so بنعمة الله, by the grace, by the favor of God. And that activity is an ayah. It is a message from God, a message from God about God. It is telling us about His generosity, His power, His knowledge, His compassion, His everything. And so here it's what is important is إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور. So the signs here are the ship sailing in the sea, or for the one who is aware. This is, as you said, how can a huge ship float on water? And when the sea is calm, it's beautiful, but when it can become stormy anytime. So even when it's calm, there is still that inside, that possibility of danger, and so there is fear and the possibility of helplessness. And if we go through a storm, you feel truly helpless, because what can you do to the sea? You can't. When there is storm, the waves are huge. And so it brings up that our vulnerability out. We become aware of it. However huge a ship is, it cannot protect us. We cannot feel protected just because the ship is big. And deep down we know that. Subhanallah, it's in our fitrah. And that's what the next ayah is saying. When the waves engulf them like shadows, they're like shadows because when the waves are huge, they are in front of you. It becomes like shadows, like mountains. They call unto God. So people, regardless, they call unto God. They call for help. Sincere in their faith in Him alone. That time, they don't think, oh, please, ship, can you please help me? When everything is okay, we say, oh, this ship is very strong, of course. The captain is very experienced. Of course, it's all going very well. But when something goes wrong, deep down, no one says, oh, maybe the captain can do something now, stop the storm or the ship or something. We all know that there is only one point, one source that we can turn to, our Rabb. And so that's why they call unto God, sincere in their faith in Him alone. مخلصين له الدين. But as soon as He has brought them safe ashore, as soon as it's over, some of them stop halfway, yet none could knowingly reject our signs, our ayat, unless the utterly perfidious ingrate. إلا كل خطار كفور. So again, here it's about rejecting the signs. وإذا غشيهم موج كالظلل دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين فلما نجاهم إلى البر فمنهم مقتصد وما يجحد بآياتنا إلا كل خطار كفور. So here, as soon as they are brought safe ashore, when it says فمنهم مقتصد, which means halfway, they stop halfway, usually translated, and also because in the tafsir it says between belief and unbelief, and it makes sense. I agree with that. I want to unpack it a little more so that it's clear. It doesn't mean that one day they believe, one day they don't. No, It doesn't mean that sometimes they deny God, or when they are not in danger, they deny God, they forget about him. But rather that they live in a state of ghafla, which means their iman is only taqlidi, it's only superficial. They have never stopped to ask, really, we believe in God, who is God? Like, I don't feel anything in my heart. How can I prostrate to God and live my life for akhirah? This life is temporary, it's not worth investing in it. Never stopped and thought about that. There is no evidence. They have no evidence because they don't bother. They don't bother, therefore they don't read the signs. They don't read the messages from God. They don't need to read the messages from God because they have their own life. In their life, they don't feel such a need. But at the same time, they don't deny God. I'm saying they, but lots of it represents us in many instances. And so they don't deny God, and that is why when they're in trouble, they go back to God, because fitratan, in the fitra, in the way we are created, deep down, we all know our Rabb. We all know he is one and only one. And so they call onto him for help. But when everything is fine, instead of being transformed through that calamity and waking up from ghafla, taking it as an opportunity to waking up from ghafla and wondering, like, I could have died. So what is the meaning and the value of this life that I can lose anytime? Instead of questioning that and staying there, again, sabbar, staying there, it needs that steadfastness, that patience, to stay there with that feeling, with those questions that come from inside. They are existential questions. Instead of doing that, they go back to ghafla. They return to their old ways and forget, because it's just too scary. They don't know that, yes, it's dark and scary, but at the end of the tunnel, there is light. And when you don't follow the tunnel and don't find the light, when we run away and start go back to our old ways, there is no possibility of gaining anything. It's not like we just numbing ourselves so that we don't feel the pain of separation, the pain of meaninglessness, the pain of purposelessness. If we're totally, our goal is this world, and this world is actually impermanent. So we know that we have nothing to hang on to, and nothing to support us, nothing to give meaning to our life. Yet, instead of looking for help, we go back to our ways and prefer to forget. That is a choice, even if we're not aware of it. Because it means that we have no intention to surrender to God alone. Because remember, deep down, we know God. It's not like God didn't give us anything in the fitrah, so we have no clue that, yes, there is light at the end of the journey. We know. And in times of trouble, immediately we call on to God. So we know, but we have no intention to surrender to God only. This is shirk. So shirk is not about denying God, but it's about not being grateful to him alone. Even when we say Alhamdulillah, but our hearts, they are attached to the world itself, to the thing itself that we're saying Alhamdulillah for. We say Alhamdulillah, but if you take it from me, my world is darkness. What do you mean? Like, you know that it can be taken from you anytime, or you will leave it and go anyways. It's supposed to be there as a reminder, as a sign, as a message from God, as a ni'mah, to be grateful to Him alone. But even when we say Alhamdulillah, we say our hearts are often attached to the world itself, to the career itself, to the status itself, to the money itself, to the children themselves, to whatever we value and appreciate in our life. And so this, when we intend to surrender to God only, then we will willingly and purposely work on surrendering everything back to Him, handing the amana, the trust, back to Him. And so the attachment in the heart goes back to the real bestower, not to the ni'mah itself, but to the mun'im, the giver of the ni'mah. And if we go back to the ayah, so the ayah says, if when they are in إذا غشيهم موج كالظلل, when they're engulfed in waves, when the waves engulf them, let's say, like shadows, they call unto God, sincere in their faith to Him alone. But as soon as He's brought them safe ashore, it says, okay, فَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ وَمَا يَجْحَدُ بِآيَاتِنَا. So مَا يَجْحَدُ here, to reject, to negate, جَحَدَ, to negate, to disclaim, to disavow, disown, refuse, reject, repudiate, renounce, all negative. Before it was إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. For all and every one. But here it's there is an exclusion. It means the ayat are so clear. The ayat are just there, like they're speaking, they're attracting our attention. And only the one who refuses to see them, who rejects the sign. Only the one who is khattarun kafur will reject the signs. And so what is khattar? Khattar is from khatara, to betray, to be disloyal, to deceive, to cheat. So khattar is the emphatic form for someone who is deceitful and untrustworthy. Imagine someone who backstabs you, cheats, a traitor, disloyal person, someone we don't like at all. And here it's someone who betrays the trust that is given to him, the fitra, the spirit that God breathes into us. And so instead of surrendering to that reality, wants to claim his own or her own independence. Remember in the Surat Al-A'la, imagining that he's independent from his Rabb. This is disloyalty. So that's khattar. And kafur here. Kafur is someone who is extremely and repeatedly ungrateful. So just like we had sabbar, here we have khattar. And we had shakur, here we have kafur. So who sees the signs? Kullu sabbarin shakur. Every one who is steadfast, very steadfast and patient, and very grateful, always grateful. And who denies and rejects the sign? Only the khattarun kafur. Only the perfidious, the betrayer, who again and again is repeatedly ungrateful, the one who is very ungrateful. This style is repeated in the Quran a lot. When it comes to positive, it says kul. When it's negative, it's illa. And that's a sign in itself. It's an ayah to what? To the fact that we are created with all the fitra, with all the abilities to be grateful, to recognize the signs, to receive the hikmah, to be able to read the signs, and we are created with the knowledge that we have one Rabb. And so the whole process of seeing the signs and reading them is a process of remembrance and a process of unfolding. We know the divine names, but we want to know them more and more and more and get closer and closer to our Rabb through surrendering more and more and more. When it comes to, that's why when it to miss the sign, to reject the sign, we need really, so to see the signs, we don't need much effort. It's already in us. We have been created with that inclination. We just need to follow up on that inclination. We need to be consciously not, how do you say? Surrendering means stop resisting. Stop resisting the fitra, the way things are. Follow, surrender everything. You will see the sign. You will be made to read them. To deny the signs needs effort. It needs someone to be khattar, to be deceitful, to betray the trust, and to be ungrateful. And not only once, kafur, repeatedly. However, because it's so easy, it's like in the part of it is like in the classroom, or like destruction. To build a building, you need to work. To destroy it, it's much easier. So another aspect that looks to human being, we find it difficult to surrender. Once you surrender, it becomes very easy. Once you make up your mind, it becomes very easy. Once we choose and make the decision, it becomes very easy. But when we don't make that decision, it seems the opposite. It seems like it's difficult. That's why it says we need sabr here. And to be very grateful. So in the beginning, if we make that choice and we keep renewing that intention and choice, after a while it becomes our way of being. It becomes easier and easier, and we'll understand why in the Quran it says only the khattar and kafur can deny and reject the sign. But it seems to us like, how come we miss the signs all the time? Or we miss the sign means we don't understand the meaning of the messages of what's going on in our life. Well, that means at some level, somewhere, we are not steadfast, we're not showing patience, and we are not being very grateful. Not only that, but sometimes there is this betrayal, and the betrayal starts by betraying the connection that we have to God, betraying our ubudiyah, claiming we live our life as if we are independent of, we have an independent life. Yes, I have a Rabb, I have a creator, but right now I am the one who lives, who chooses, who does, who speaks. Wrong. I am not the one. I don't know even how it's happening, and anytime anything can happen. It's like the storm. You can have a stroke and you can't move your body, you can't speak. Who said I can? I can't even breathe. I don't know how I breathe. I am made to breathe. So when I forget, when we are in a state of ghafla, we are betraying. But the point is not to stay there, because here khattar is, there is an emphasis, means doing it again and again and again. It becomes your way of being. But even if we go there, inshallah, our prayer is an intention is to get out of that disconnected hal, that disconnected state of being in inshallah. And so back to ayah 31, when in the positive, when it says inna fi dhalika la'ayatin likulli sabarin shakur, there are signs for the very patient, the very steadfast and very grateful. Here shakur is more than very grateful. It's like going out of one's way to be grateful, looking for opportunities to be grateful. You make it your aim in life to be grateful. And sabar is someone who is constant, steadfast, persevering in that path. So patience and constancy and perseverance in looking for the signs, the messages from God. And in the translations, they say in adversity, but it's all the time, not only in adversity, but particularly in adversity because the ayah, the original doesn't say in adversity. It does say it before. I'll go back there later. But particularly in adversity, because in adversity we tend to not like what's going on, and therefore we don't see anything beautiful. But we can only do that if we are patient and read the signs and the beautiful messages in everything, in what we call our normal life, outside adversity life, let's say. So such a person knows and is totally aware that whatever happens, whatever occurs, is from God. And so she patiently and steadfastly, if you can say that, trusts in divine wisdom. It means trust that everything is created with meaning and purpose. Just because I don't see it, it doesn't mean that it's not there. When I trust, because I know that I don't know anything. Whatever I know, illa ma'allamtana, whatever you teach me. So I don't say, I don't see it. We don't say that. But when we are in a state of ghafla, it is as though we are assuming that, as if I don't see it, it's not there. Subhanallah. Astaghfirullah. How foolish to perceive life in that way. So the one who is patiently and steadfastly in surrender and trust in divine wisdom, then that person knows that everything is created with meaning and purpose, and so she waits to be given that wisdom, that patiently, steadfastly trusting in divine wisdom, in divine compassion, in her Rabb, is what makes her open to receive the wisdom. And she's grateful. She's grateful that whatever is happening, however bad it is, I am not alone. I am not an orphan. I am not alien. And whatever is happening, however bad it is passing. So I can wait for it to pass. And it will pass. Even if it doesn't pass in this life, it will pass with my passing. So that surrender, that trust, and the wisdom, that the gratitude that comes with it, makes that state of patience and gratitude, makes us open to receive the wisdom. And wisdom is given to that person in that state of ihsan, to the muhsin. And the person is made to read and decipher the signs. And this attitude is grounded in gratitude, and it leads to even more gratitude, as we said before. So shakur comes last because it's the goal of sabr, sabbarin shakur. And from one perspective, we could say that sabr is the beginning and shukr is the end. We can also say from another perspective that sabr is the inner aspect and gratitude is the outer visible aspect. So we cannot have someone who is shakur, who is always grateful, whatever is happening in her life, without having that person steadfast and being sabbar, being in a state of sabr. They are the two legs, two essential elements of iman. You cannot, it's a road through sabr that leads to shukr. It starts with the intention for shukr. You go through sabr, shukr, and back again. And it's build on each other, and it becomes more and more, subhanallah. And we find something very similar in another surah, Surah 42, when it says, and among his signs are the ships that sails like floating mountains through the seas. And then it says, if he so wills, he stills the wind, and then they lie motionless on the sea surface. And herein, behold, there are signs indeed for all those who are wholly steadfast and deeply grateful. ومن آياته الجوار في البحر كالأعلام إن يشأ يسكن الريح يظللن رواكد على ظهره إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور. And it's interesting, this expression is repeated many times in the Quran. إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور. And sabbar always comes before shakur, subhanallah. And in Surat al-Sajda, which is right after Surat Luqman, so Surah Luqman is 31 and Surat al-Sajda is 32. There it says, sorry, the lesson. إنما يؤمن بآياتنا الذين إذا ذكروا بها خروا سجدا وسبحوا بحمد ربهم وهم لا يستكبرون تتجافى جنوبهم عن المضاجع يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا ومما رزقناهم ينفقون فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي لهم من قرة أعين جزاء بما كانوا يعملون أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. Subhanallah, it says, only they truly believe in our ayat, in our signs, those who, whenever they are conveyed to them, fall down, prostrating themselves in adoration, in worship, and extol their Rabb's limitless glory and praise, and who are never filled with false pride. So this not being filled with false pride and being modest is primarily towards God, because it's only when we realize our dependence on our Rabb that we cannot be haughty and with other people, because we realize that we're all the same. We can empathize with our vulnerability. or people's vulnerability and weakness. I just remind you also that this is the surah is called the Sajda, and this ayah is an ayah of Sajda. So after, inshallah, we need to make a Sajda. And then it says, and who are, so these people who whenever, who are these people who يؤمنوا بآياتنا إنما يؤمنوا بآياتنا, who are the people who believe in our ayat? It means in our ayat in the Quran that talk about our ayat in creation. So they're interconnected. Those who, the people who believe in our ayat, they are those who إذا ذكروا بها, whenever they are reminded of them, they fall down سجدا وسبحوا بحمد ربهم. They fall down prostrating themselves and they extol, they make tasbih of their Rabb with glory and praise, and لا يستكبرون, they don't pretend to be bigger than what they actually are. And who are impelled to rise from their beds at night. Like they are impelled because like it comes from inside. It's not like, oh, why do I have to, astaghfirullah. If this is coming, something is wrong. It means the programming is wrong. The beliefs need to be questioned and cleared out. It comes from inside, to impelled to rise from their beds at night to call out to their Rabb in fear and in hope, and who spend on others out of what we provide for them as sustenance. So when they spend, it's easy for them to spend because they are travelers in this world. And not only it's easy to spend, they do spend, but مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ, they know that what they are giving is not from them. It's what they have been given. And so the more we give, the more we remind ourselves. It becomes an ayah, a reminder that, oh, I was given this as well, and I was given this as well. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah. And therefore, it is, again, gratitude. And no human being, actually, فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ, let's say, okay, no human soul can imagine what blissful delights, actually what joy of the eyes, مِنْ قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ, as yet hidden awaits them in the life as a reward for all what they did. Is he who is a believer like this, it means, like this one, like the one who is iniquitous, من كان فاسقا. Fasiq is someone who is foolish. Clearly, لا يستوون. Clearly, these two are not equal. So the one who lives this way and the one who doesn't, can they be equal? No. And interestingly, in the ayah that says, no human soul can imagine what blissful delights that are still yet hidden awaits them as a reward for all what they did. Not only they, in this life, they live with this, it is a delight to live in the presence of one's Rabb. It's very light to live in this life as a traveler. We're going through being taken. Life and time is passing, whether we're sitting in one place or walking or whatever, or flying. We're all being taken to the other world. And it says, and all this amazing way of being in this world, and there is even what is awaiting is even more delightful. Subhanallah, blissful delights are waiting, yet hidden awaits them as a reward for all what they did. That's what in the hadith, when God says, it's a Qudsi hadith, I have read it for my righteous servants, what no eyes has ever seen and no ear has ever heard and no heart of human has ever conceived. Subhanallah. I'll stop here, inshallah. So we have 2 more ayats, and the next 2 ayats I want to only mention 33, because it just, after all this, it says, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم واخشوا يوما لا يجزي والد عن ولده ولا مولود هو جاز عن والده شيئا إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. O people, be conscious of your Rabb, and stand in awe of the day on which no parent will be of any avail to his child, nor a child will in the least avail his parent. Truly, God's promise is true indeed. Let not then the life of this world deludes you, and let not your own deceptive thoughts about God delude you. Subhanallah. Inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
آمين. جزاك الله خير Sister Yamina. So we are almost finished with Surah Luqman. We have just one verse.
Two verses actually.
2 verses left.
I just mentioned the one verse because it just sits here. Like at the end, Allah is saying, like, "Oh people, be conscious of your sustainer. What are you doing? How can you delude yourself after all this?" Subhanallah. So beautiful and so compassionate.
Are there any questions or comments on today's session? I appreciate the insight about the connection between patience and gratitude. May Allah make us practice it. All right, so let's pause, stop today's session, and inshallah we'll continue next week. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And if you want to join us for the December retreat, please register soon. Early registration has been extended till this weekend. So this is the last weekend to register with the best rate.
Sura, I just wanted to mention, sorry, I was in the other room, I had to run.